We were interrupted. הפסקנו, ואנחנו נמשיך על עושה שתי בתי נירים, constructing two heddles. אני עכשיו קורא מספר דוד רביעת, and he's describing the malacha of עושה בתי נירים in the Mishkan. A weaving loom in the time of the Mishkan was essentially composed of two beams, with one resting horizontally on top of posts set into the ground, and the second beam connected to the posts at a lower point. In between were hundreds of warp threads attached to each beam. Setting these warp threads onto the loom was mesach. That's what we talked about. The upper beam, called the koved ha'elyon, was where the warp threads begin, while the lower beam, called the koved tachton, was where the woven fabric was completed. Producing a fabric at this point entails the passing of weft threads under and over each of the hundreds of warp threads in perfect sequence. A method had to be devised where the warp threads would be lifted alternately, forming an opening called a shed, to allow the transverse threads, called the weft, threads, to pass through one swift shuttling movement to perform and accomplish the under-over weaving. To create a shed that would allow the passing of the weft thread during weaving, a length of string called a litzo was attached to a reed and used to create heddles, botei nirim. This was done by passing the reed and string around every second even warp thread and forming a loop. The process was repeated using a second similar reed with the same kind of string to form loops on every odd thread below the first reed. These loops were called botei nirim, were used to raise and lower the odd even threads alternately to facilitate the actual weaving. Forming these loops was the malacha of oseh shetei botei nirim as done in the Mishkan. With the looms of the Mishkan, Mesach preceded the malacha of oseh shetei botei nirim. Okay. The heddles on the loom. He has a special paragraph on heddles on the loom. The heddles, here. The heddles are small rings through which the warp threads are passed as part of the preparation of the loom. In a modernized loom, these small rings, called botei nirim, housings for threads, are fastened to strings called nirim in the frame or harness of the loom. Constructing two of these heddles on the strings of the harnesses is the malacha of the oseh shtei botei nirim. The warp threads run through these heddles and are designed to be lifted alternately, forming an opening called a shed, while a spool of thread called the weft threads are shuttled through during the actual weaving. Setting heddles in this fashion permits the weaver to perform and accomplish the under and over formation in one swift shuttling movement. According to Rashi, the act of passing the warp thread through the heddle is the malacha, and not the constructing of the heddle itself. Okay, I had to read that straight. I will post it. Now, that was a very recent secondary, thirdary source. It all came from the Mishnah. The Mishnah is Shabbos, Kuf Hey Amid Aleph. Ha'oseh shnei botei nirim. Actually, the Gemara here. Whoever makes, they call two meshes or heddles, attaching them to either the nirin or the keros is liable. My benirin, the Amar Abaya. Abaya said, what are nirim? Tarti bava nira v'chad benira, bechera, benera. One ties two of the meshes of the thread of the warp and ties one to the crosspiece. That's the thread that extends from the weaving thread. We learn in the Mishnah that one is liable for attaching meshes to the keros. And the Gemara asks, what is keros? My bekeros? Amarav b'mitzovisa. Rav said it refers to the slips, the parts that go up and down on the stationary loom and are parallel to the pole. So we could see that it's not only complicated today, it is complicated even in the Mishnah to perceive what really took place. Now, I'm going to read what the Hanira Yesod Hamalacha, the Oseh Shtei Batei Nirim. Nira Lefi Ani Dati, Shehu Hachana Lamase Ariga. Ubekisei Ha'ariga, the loom, Tzarich Batei Nirim Mamash. You need heddles. Kedei La'afsher Hahecha Timsa Lamase Ha'ariga. Dahainu Arigat Chut Arev Tok Chotei Hashesi. Umeyilim Habati Nirim Halalu Lahagbia Chatzi Chutei Hashesi Kedei Shiyolich Habuchiar Dezehu Igul Shechutei Arev El Toch HaChulya HaNaasis Ben HaChatzi Chutei Hashesi Shelamala V'Chatzi Chutei Hashesi Shelatachat. As Malachit Oseh B'Shtei Batei Nirim Perush Hechnis Chutei Hashesi B'Nirim Sheyal Zeh V'Yered Zeh. זה היה הלשון של חז"ל. עכשיו, עד כאן מלאכת עושה שתי בתי נירים, ומחר אנחנו נמשיך עם מלאכת אורג, the ariga itself. Okay? ואני מוסר לאחל לכם יום טוב, I will post the pages that I had so that you can actually read it and chazer it again. Yom Tov l'chulam.